All right, room 32. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and tackle our next lesson, module 11.3, numbers, writing 5-digit numbers in expanded form. All right. Now, to get us started with, we're going to go ahead and start with our slides as we usually do. Our first slide here shows us some bags of marbles. All right. Now, I have a couple questions for you to kind of help us out with the lesson here. The first question I'd like to pose is, what multiplication equation can be written to describe the total number of marbles? Now, if you recall, we've done a lot of problems like this in the past. So there are 5 bags, right? So 5 would be our first equation, or our first factor of our equation, right? There are 5 marbles, and there are 5 bags, and there are 4 marbles in each bag. And you guys have memorized your 5 facts, so you know that 5 times 4 equals to 20, correct? All right. So the first factor, 5, says how many groups there are. The second factor, 4, tells us how many are in each group. And then the product, of course, is how many in all, or the total amount. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide here. Now, we have a similar situation. This time we have some jars with some cubes inside. So again, how would we describe this picture? Well, we could say there are 3 jars, and in each jar there are 8 cubes. So 3 times 8 equals to 24. All right. Again, the 3 represents the 3 groups, right? 3 jars. And then 8 represents how many are in each jar. So that we can see that when we multiply, we are just repeating that same number multiple times, right? Remember that multiplication and addition are related, right? So repeated addition is another way of doing multiplication. All right, let's take a look at our next one. Now, this time we have an array. All right, now we've done arrays before in class. As a matter of fact, as you recall, in our calendar time, we did arrays every day, right? And we learned that when we look at an array, we say number of rows times number in each row. So how many rows do we have? We have 4 rows. 4 rows. And how many in each row? So we have a total of 7 in each row. So when we multiply 4 rows of 7, we get a total of 28 strawberries in all. Okay, 4 representing how many rows, so also same concept of how many groups, right? And then 7 represented how many are in each row, which would be like how many are in each group. So 4 times 7 is 28. Let's take a look at our next slide. So this time we have cupcakes, all right? So I'm going to take a brief moment and let you think about this problem, and I want you to think about how you would solve it. So again, think about groups and number in each group and how many total there are, all right? So take a moment to think about how to solve that, and then I want you to write an equation, how you would come up with this answer. Okay, I think a lot of you probably went and started by counting the number of plates. Is that right? Okay, so there are 6 plates, and you probably then counted how many were on each plate, which was 3. And if we multiply 6 times 3, we get 18. All right, so 6 equal groups of 3 is a total of 18. All right, now this one here, we have pennies, don't we? So we're looking at that array again. So how many rows do we have? So looking at this, we have 7 rows. And if we multiply 7 rows, and we look at how many are in each row, we have 9 in each row, correct? Okay, so 7 times 9. I'm going to give you just a moment to think about that fact and see if you can solve that. Some of you might even be thinking about the turnaround fact, 9 times 7. Remember, we use our tens facts to help us solve our nines facts? That might be a little something that's going in your mind as you think about how to solve these problems. Okay, so 7 times 9 equals to 63. Okay, now let's look at our next slide here. So on this slide, what you can see is we have a number written in standard form, right? So this number right here written in standard form, if we read that number, we would say 54,612, correct? Now, each of those digits has a place value. Did you guys know that? Sure you did, because we introduced that at the beginning of the week. Plus, we've been studying place value throughout this year, and I'm sure you studied that also in previous years, especially second grade. So let's think about this for a second. The 2 in this particular number is representing 2 ones. The 1 beside the 2 is representing 110. And then the 6 represents the hundreds, the 4 represents the thousands, and the 5 represents the 10,000s. Now, a moment ago, remember we talked about multiplying equal groups. Now, have you remembered us studying expanded form in the past? Well, let's think about expanded form for a moment here. If we were to write this out in expanded form, we would say 5 times 10,000, and then 4 plus 4 times 1,000, and plus 6 times 100, okay? And I'm going to just go ahead and put these in parentheses, just like this, okay? So it's easier for us to see each portion of this expanded form, okay? And I'm going to jump to the next line because I ran out of room, plus 1 times 10 plus 2 times 1. Oops, hang on one second. Let me get that fixed. Okay, 2 times 1. All right. And all of that is equal to our original standard form number representing 54,612. All right, let's take a look here. And this kind of breaks it down by then taking and simplifying each of those parts of the equation, right, of that expanded form. When we multiply 5 times 10,000, what do we get? 50,000. We multiply 4 times 1,000, we get 4,000. Multiply 6 times 100, we get 600. 1 times 10 is 10, and 2 times 1 is 1. So in expanded form, we write that all out. It's 50,000 plus 4,000 plus 600 plus 10 plus 2. And I know we did some problems like this back when we deal with 4-digit numbers, right? This is 5 digits, so we have that new place value right there of the 10,000, right? Okay, now let's go ahead and jump into our step in discussion. All right, I think this will be helpful for you, so I'm going to go ahead and do this with you today as well. Okay, so what number is shown on this abacus? All right, so we have 5 in the ones, 1 in the tens, 2 in the hundreds, and it looks like 8 in the thousands and 3 in the 10,000s. All right, so if you were thinking that number was 38,215, I think that's what we're going to come up with. It says, how many bees can you see? And we just kind of, so it says, look at the rod that represents the 10,000s. How many beads do you see? So we see 3 beads, right? So that would be like 3 times 10,000. Sorry about that. Let me clear that. Sorry. Okay. 3 times 10,000, right? Okay. So what number do the beads on that row show? They show 30,000, right? Because I see 3 beads in the 10,000s place. I know that each bead represents 10,000, so 3 times 10,000 equals to 30,000, correct? Then it says, what number of beads on each of the other place values rods show? So we would do the same thing again, right? We would take 8 beads times 1,000, and then 2 beads times 100, 1 bead times 10, and 5 beads times 1. All right? So you can see that right there. And so if we were to go ahead and represent that in expanded form, we would say that would be 30,000 plus 8,000 plus 200 plus 10 plus 5. I know my numbers aren't perfect. I hope you can forgive me for that, but it's a little difficult to write on my screen. Okay? So, what does the so our it says what does her equation Jennifer so what does Jennifer's equation or how does Jennifer's equation match the abacus, right? So when we look at that, we can see that her equation, when you add up each of those parts, right, each place value, you're going to end up with the grand total of 38,215, correct? All right. So we multiply the numbers inside each pair of parentheses, record each product below the parenthesis. All right. And then now we add those products up, and you'll see that that equals to the same value as what's represented in the abacus. Okay. Now let's go ahead and jump into our first page of your lesson. Now I know you're already there, but mine's a little bit different than yours. So down here, we're going to see that it says, look at the abacus, then write the value of the beads on each rod. So you're going to go through there, write the value of each beads, and then you're going to multiply and write the number that the product of each of those multiplication equations, okay? On page 2, what you're going to do is you're going to, it says write a 5-digit number on each expander, then write the same number in expanded form. So on the expander, you're going to write the standard form of the number, and then you're going to go ahead and take each of the digits and multiply them by each of the place values. All right. Down here below, it says write each number in expanded form. So I will just give you an example of what that would look like. So here you would write, let me get this here, 20,000 plus 2,000 plus 400 plus 10 plus 8. All right. So that's just a little bit of an idea of what you're going to do. I wanted to make sure I went over that with you guys so that you'd be ready for your lesson today. And we'll see you on Zoom later on. Thank you.